and vocal. Alan Stiles on Sactown Sports.
11 o'clock on the dot. Hour 2 is upon us as we got 4 hours with you, taking you up to 2 p.m. And it is time for everyone's favorite segment. This has really become a fan favorite because it's a hopeful segment. I feel like with the Kings, and like I said, Vegas Insider put out a really funny article we'll get to in the 12 o'clock hour about the different NBA fan bases. We got NFL 2 on an NFL Friday, and we got NFL Cowboys versus Niners. That's what we are breaking down today. Who would you rather have as a quarterback, and who would you rather pay $60 million to? But Vegas Insider, the fan bases that use the most profanity, the most negative fan bases, we're going to have some fun with that in the 12 o'clock hour. But right now, it is time for our trade target, our trade candidate of the day. And that player, a couple people guessed it right, Julius Randle. Now, I know it's a bit of a confusing one because he has a player option. So technically right now he could opt out and be a free agent. So that is the interesting thing. So not your typical, if anyone didn't say, Alan, that's not technically a trade. Well, it would be a sign and trade. It's Friday, and we really wanted to get something out as far as the Timberwolves are concerned. Now, Julius Randle right now is one of the most interesting players, I'd say, in the NBA. At $33 million, that's what he just got paid. He has a player option going into next season at $30.9 million. Okay, and we just saw him play really, really good against the Warriors, and then play really, really not so good against the Thunder. Albeit the Thunder, I think that's why $30 million is very confusing. Julius Randle could think he deserves more. I feel like the market would say, I think you're pretty solid, Julius, at $30.9 million. So if he opts in, he could, eventually be traded. He could opt out and then re-sign, and maybe it's a lower AAV, but he gets more years on his contract. What is the plan with Julius Randle? And we'll start out with the stats and then essentially get into who is Julius Randle and what is he on an NBA team. Me personally, I don't know why. I know he started in the Big Apple, so it's tough to make that transition. But he did say, his wife said it was nice having more space going to Minnesota. He's got 2 boys, and they recently had a baby girl, right? She said 2 rambunctious boys. So it's better for them to have their big, which is so funny to me because, you can afford anything, right? Even in New York. But let's play the game. The money does go further in Minnesota than in New York. I will not disagree with her there.
Goes further in Sacramento.
And it would go even further. I don't know. It might go further in Minnesota.
De'Aaron Fox's house is quite nice.
There's plenty of parks, though. Plenty of parks. And your money will go further in Sacramento than it did in New York. I can tell you that much.
It's warmer here.
I can tell you that much right now. So 69 games Julius Randle played at 18.7 points per game, which is a smidge under his career at 19 points per game. 7.1 rebounds per game, which is pretty good. He goes 6'9". That might be a little generous as well. 6'7", 6'9". He's 6'9" on Basketball Reference. 9 rebounds. That's his average for his career. Like I said, 7.1 this past season. His assists did go up, though, 4.7 this past season, 3.8 for his career. 48.5% from the field. This season, 47.1% from the field for his career. 34.4% from 3, a little bit better, 1% better than his career at 33.4, 80% from the free throw line, 5% better than his career at 75. So that's Julius Randle on paper. Okay, a power forward. You could play him at the small center. He can shoot the 3 ball. We know he can get after it offensively. Back in the day when he was with the Knicks, a lot of people, and even prior to that, right? He's been around the block. The Lakers, the Pelicans for a hot second, the Knicks, and now the Timberwolves. People accuse him of only being able to use that left hand. Remember when the Knicks a couple of years ago, they just had all lefties, right? Julius Randle was kind of a part of that. He was 7th overall pick in the 2014 draft. I like him. Like I said, I don't know why he's got Sacramento written all over him to me, just as far as this is not what Doug Christie, we're having a conversation based on the Monty McNair versus Mike Brown thing, because this is not what Doug Christie, I think, would want. I also don't think this is what Scott Perry would want. Scott Perry familiar with Julius Randle, though, and I do think it's intriguing. Offensively, I do think it's a good fit. I think that Domantas Sabonis and Julius Randle could for sure play together. I think that if you ran Julius at the 4, Domantas at the 5, Keegan at the 3, Levine at the 2, and then whoever you, as we have been doing, slotting in for that 1 the same way. I think he's slightly different, but we have our version of point guards that we all put together, the Darius Garlands, the Tyrese Maxeys, and now De'Aaron Fox is closer to that category, I'd say. Then you have the Julius Randle variants of Julius Randle, John Collins, PJ Washington, all guys that are good 4s, but probably not number 2s or maybe not even number 3s. Karl-Anthony Towns is a better version of that, but they're all kind of just in that pile. And I think Julius Randle is the best version of that pile. And that's why you're going to pay him like he's the best version of that pile. But on paper, no defense necessary. I like his fit from the offensive end with the Kings.
So it's interesting because we wanted to have the conversation about what Julius Randle is at this point in his career. Mm-hmm. And I think this is about as close as we're going to get to confirming that he's not a championship number 2.
Yes.
Like, Anthony Edwards is one of the players we know is a superstar. Young superstar, yes, but is one of those guys that we know he's great, and they had no shot against Oklahoma City and probably would have lost to the Knicks, or they were like a tier below everybody else. And Julius Randle played excellent. Now, you made the point when he's playing against Draymond Green, who doesn't care because Steph isn't playing, and
right.
Draymond doesn't care about basketball if Steph isn't playing. Yes, he put up a triple-double, but against Oklahoma City and their swarming defense,
he's awful.
Yeah, he turned the ball over, 7-point games, 5-point games. And I would make the point, all of these players that are not superstars, that can happen to them just because of usage rates and everything else. Darius Garland had like 5 points in a playoff game too. And Darius Garland, we know, is a championship number 3. So it can happen to anyone, but I also think on this Kings team, he would be like a 2.5, like him and Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
It's unique when you play with Domantas Sabonis, whether you're a 2 or a 3, just because Domantas Sabonis is such a unique skill set.
Yeah, it turns into, like I said, it's basically, and this is what the Kings have been, and this is what it seems like they want to be when you don't want to blow things up. Unless they end up taking a huge swing, this is what the Kings are. It's what they've been even with De'Aaron Fox. A collection of a team that is always going to have 3 dudes that are top 40 players, but nobody in the top 20. That's essentially what it is. That's who they've been.
Well, De'Aaron Fox got close, but...
He got close, and Domantas Sabonis, you can make an argument.
Oh, Domantas Sabonis is there, I would say. He's in the top 25. You know, we can have debates about 15, 20, whatever.
The point is, it's just 3 really good players, and we already know that having 3 really good players ain't good enough. If one of them is not a dude or even close to it, it is not good enough.
Yeah, but that's the thing that you're banking on is the projectability, right? We all thought, even the Timberwolves thought they were getting worse because they got Julius Randle instead of Karl-Anthony Towns. And they lost in 5 games in the Western Conference Finals with Karl, and they lost in 5 games in the Western Conference Finals without Karl.
Quick sidebar, though. Funny enough, because I was just thinking about this because I saw Dante DiVincenzo talking about it. He said that, hey, when I was on the Knicks, I knew I was getting my 3s I knew I was getting my shots from a DHO with Hartenstein or when they crash on Brunson and I'm just wide open. The reason I bring that up is because I don't think the argument is Julius Randle coming off of that crazy season Dante DiVincenzo had in New York, which I never believed it. I think that he had a bad season in Minnesota. I also don't think that what he did in New York was realistic either. But you were essentially thinking the thought process in Minnesota was it ain't Julius Randle to Karl Anthony Towns. It's Julius Randle and Dante to Karl Anthony Towns, which if Dante has a season that even resembles what he did in New York, they might still, I don't know, because it's the Thunder, but they might literally still be playing as far as a Game 7. I don't know that they win, but I don't know how much it says about Dante or Julius Randle as much as it says that Karl Anthony Towns is better than Julius Randle. They got absolutely nothing from Dante all season.
But I think the bigger thing was Karl Anthony Towns never made sense alongside Rudy. They were trying to make it work, but with Rudy as the defensive center, it worked. Julius Randle did not have the numbers the same, but he had his most efficient season not of his career, since he was on like the Pelicans. Mm-hmm. This was the most efficient season of Julius Randle's career. And he was the tried and true number 2 because Rudy gets all his offense just from lobs. Mm-hmm. So I think it made more sense. The only difference I would say with Sacramento is they don't have a shot blocking defensive center who catches lobs. They have a point center, which means it would be a very different looking offense.
We have trade packages when we return for Julius Randle. It would be a sign and trade in this situation. We also have an update on the Timberwolves, which ties right into what we're talking about from Sam Amico. We will share that update with you in just about a minute here. Alan Stiles, Sactown Sports.
Listen on the Sactown Sports app.
Julius Randle. Is that someone you would take on your Sacramento Kings? Well, there some Timberwolves news that just came out from Sam Amico. Now, we know that the Timberwolves tried to get Kevin Durant during this last trade deadline. We also know that there was a Luka Anthony Edwards conversation had as well. Timberwolves are never shy to make moves and to keep evolving. That is one thing I will say about Minnesota, even amidst their ownership questions and things like that. They have never been afraid to just kind of keep it pushing in the way that they are keeping pushing. And Sam Amico had this to say, senior NBA writer for hoopswire.com. The Minnesota Timberwolves are reportedly looking to trade for a quote-unquote alpha and are expected to pursue Kevin Durant. Here's the quote. The Timberwolves need another alpha next to Edwards to win it all, which is why sources told HoopsWire that Minnesota is expected to pursue a Durant trade again this offseason. So in that trade, I think right there is your answer. If they're able to pull it off, that's some type of sign and because the money has to work. Yeah. And if you're the Suns, that has Matt Ishbia written all over it. All right, we'll do the deal because it's Kings-esque, right? We're going to lose our asset. He wants out. I'm leaving here with something because we ain't blowing it up because we're not moving Devin Booker. So, hey, we got you a big 3. Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Julius Randle. Suns in 4. Suns in 4. That's what we're doing.
Suns 4 and 10.
Yes, Suns 4 and 10. So as we discuss Julius Randle coming to Sacramento, it seems like the Timberwolves aren't being shy about their pursuit. Not to get too sidetracked here because we do have some trades for Julius Randle. But real quick, this makes sense to me.
Yes.
If you're the Timberwolves, right? This is, and I would say if you're Kevin Durant, these are the types of situations when we're trying to figure out, well, who would do this or that? I think if you are the Timberwolves, you have some young talent, right? A Rob Dillingham, I would say a Jaden McDaniels, even though you don't want to, but give me Rob Dillingham, Jaden McDaniels, and Julius Randle, maybe a pick, and the Suns get to continue doing whatever they're doing, and the Timberwolves say, this is our move to get over the hump. And that's a team that if you put Kevin Durant healthy on this Timberwolves team, I might still have the Thunder, but it's a very close series.
Well, and the other part is, one, the relationship with Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant.
Yes.
That's the guy. That's his favorite player.
Yes, keep him happy.
His idol. But I don't think it's necessarily keep him happy. I think you're going to get a better version of both of them if they both really like each other, which they both do. And then secondarily, whether it's Randle or Naz Reid, you can use those players going out with the Phoenix so that you essentially add value instead of losing them for nothing. It's like, instead of Naz Reid going to San Antonio and you get back Harrison Barnes,
right,
you can leverage Naz Reid to Phoenix and then get back Kevin Durant in return. If Phoenix obviously wants Naz Reid or Julius Randle, Phoenix kind of has to ask themselves what they want.
Yeah, and again, I don't know what the Suns are doing, but the piece before the piece, it reminds me of when Kevin Durant left the Warriors and, hey, let's get you D'Angelo Russell, even though it's not a fit, it's a piece before the piece. I remember having these conversations about when Monty McNair, he just offloaded, who was it, Davion Mitchell, and it was the move before the move. And I guess it was, but we were all sitting there. I know Chris was ticked off at some random salary dump, bizarre move that Monty McNair made. That just reminded me of it.
Yeah, Olivier Maxence Prosper could have been a king. All of it is, I think it's all aligning for Minnesota to get Kevin Durant. That is the team. That is the team that makes the most sense. It's the move that Minnesota needs to make or risk, falling behind the 8 ball. Just take the risk. We can talk more about what it actually would entail later, whether you could even keep Jaden McDaniels and still make it work, but that's the move that they should be making.
All right, let's get to the move that the Kings should be making, the 2 trades to acquire Julius Randle.
Well, one of them actually leads right into what you talked about, but we'll save that. The first one is just a straight up sign and trade, Wolves for the Kings. We're going to say Julius Randle gets $36 million a year.
Okay.
3-year contracts. You can throw a player option in there or something, but we're going to say that's low end number 2 money in the NBA, is about $35-36 million a year. So that's what we're going to put Julius Randle's salary at. The deal would be Julius Randle going to the Kings for DeMar DeRozan.
Cool.
Which, again, Minnesota can figure out what to do with that later. DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray.
What's up, Vancouver?
And Minnesota gets back that 2031 first rounder that the Kings are holding on to right now. So Julius Randle for DeRozan, Keegan, and the 2031 first round pick. 3-year deal for old Julius Randle.
Keegan and a first rounder? I know it's a low first rounder, but Keegan and a first rounder?
I mean, Julius Randle's a all-star, not last season, but the season before.
That's a lot, brother.
I know. Julius Randle's going to be worth more than you think Julius Randle's worth.
Well, and DeMar DeRozan is going to be worth a lot more than you think DeMar DeRozan worth.
Yeah, I mean, sure. You want to take back a second-round pick? Say we get pick 31 from the Timberwolves. Does that make you feel better?
I can't do both.
So this would leave us with, at this point, whoever their point guard is going to be, Keon Ellis, Zach LaVine, Julius Randle, Domantas Sabonis, and then coming off the bench, Malik Monk, Jonas Valanciunas, Jake LaRavia, and then, whoever else they fill out their bench with.
I'm out. Out.
It's the Keegan one?
It's both. You can't. It's not Keegan in a first.
Keegan and the Timberwolves first too.
Yeah,
which is the good one.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't. Not in this economy. I can't do that.
What if I put a protection on the pick?
I'm done with these protections. I'm done with protection.
All right, maybe you'll like the next one a little better, because in this scenario, it's the same trade from the Kings side. It's the same trade, but you're giving up your first round pick next year. So it's not the good pick. It's just the slightly lesser first round pick. Okay. But you still have to give up DeRozan and Keegan. I'll explain the rest of the trade in a second, but does that make you at least feel a little better? It's the Kings' first next year, which doesn't have the chance of being the lottery pick.
The problem is I can't lose Keegan in a deal that I don't know if we're going to the playoffs or not.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at.
So
right? If Keegan is part of a Trae Young deal and he's a facilitator and I feel, okay, it's a bonus. And I still don't know if that team makes the playoffs, but I would at least say he's a maestro. He could still be a dude. We don't know. We know what Julius Randle is. Julius Randle, Zach LaVine, DeMontis Sabonis.
And Malik Monk.
And Dennis Schroeder.
Sure.
Ain't going to nobody's
Pick a point.
Ain't not in the West. Maybe the East, but not in the West. I can't. I would do that deal in the East.
Okay.
But I cannot do that deal in the West. How about that?
Got to believe in the process, my guy. Okay, so trade number 2 is we're going to get in on this Kevin Durant to the Minnesota Timberwolves trade. Because Minnesota, they're going to get just an amalgamation of pieces, and they're going to try and make this thing fit a little bit better.
What have you created here?
I've created a monster. A 4-team trade for Kevin Durant that would end up with Minnesota getting KD, the Kings getting Julius Randle. Again, same contract. Randle and Naz Reid have to add up to Kevin Durant's salary in this situation. We're just going to assume that works. Same contract. Julius Randle goes to the Kings. Kevin Durant to the Timberwolves. DeMar DeRozan is going to go to the Rockets in this situation.
Okay.
And the Suns are going to end up with, for Kevin Durant, Keegan Murray, Naz Reid, Dylan Brooks, Cam Whitmore, the 17th pick in this year's draft, and Sacramento's 2026 first rounder, which there's also, if you think Phoenix isn't getting enough, there's a situation where Houston has their 10 pick. And so Houston sends them the 10 pick and they swap 10 and 17. So Phoenix moves up 8 spots in the draft.
This draft.
Yes, this year. So Phoenix would get the 10 pick, Houston would get the 17 pick.
Yeah, I think if you're the Suns, you do that.
Because you would end up with...
It's an expiring deal on Kevin Durant. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, and they would end up with, at the end of it, a starting 5 of Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Dylan Brooks, Keegan Murray, Naz Reid.
Sure, why not?
That's a 10 seed in the West.
Yeah. You're fighting. You're probably better than the Kings. I'm not doing that deal either. I don't know what's with you in this first rounder in Keegan. This guy's overvaluing Julius Randle here.
A first-round pick and Keegan Murray.
And DeMar.
Well, and DeMar, yeah.
DeMar, who's going to be everyone's plan B once Kevin Durant, that shoe drops.
Yeah, but if I make DeMar DeRozan Tobias Harris, you're not really complaining about trading DeMar DeRozan.
I don't even know what that means.
I'm saying that DeMar DeRozan is a name, but it only works if you're getting a bigger player like that.
Don't do that.
Just saying.
Don't do that.
My point is, I think you're undervaluing what Julius Randle is going to go for.
And I think you're undervaluing, funny enough, you're the one undervaluing DeMar DeRozan now. That's where I'm at. All right, where we're at is way over time. When we return, more from DeMar DeRozan. He talks about having that point guard, and could that be what keeps him in Sacramento? Alan Stiles, Sactown Sports.
When you're hiring